Does someone need more time for that quiz?
A couple more quizzes.
I got no more quizzes, so if you missed out, good on you. Good karma.
But I have one.
Does anyone need one?
You can come and get a homework at the break, okay?
Hola. You finished your quiz, Birdie is the man. So if you send them over that way now, that'd be good. Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you for coming. Let's start off by requesting for teachings. Don't forget, when you come to these classes, you're entering into the potential you that is turning into an enlightened being. Hopefully, if you put these things to practice, I don't do the academic stuff. I'll do the best I can, but it's about practice. So when you come in here, hopefully you get to connect with that part of you that is the thing that flips over into a being that no longer has the conditions that lead to suffering. So think about that and think of the obstructions you've got to that. And please, if you can, with an energy from your heart, push them outside of this room and lock this room with a magical state that you could in fact get everything you need to make that next step closer to a place where you can be free from suffering and help others get there too. So that's why we do this funny thing. We create a perfect world and really picture what that would feel like for people and offer that to your highest teacher. Make them come, ask them to come and teach you as I do blah blah and you do thinking. And then we think about how that happens. You want to do it? You can do it. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Geshe Rirolin Shin Embodies Sangre Shindu Mitheru Argi Rokun Namda Shinla Jipasho Hiyam Guru Ratna Zoki Choknam Nam Jamchu Bardu Dakni Kapsuchi Dahi Jinyen Gipe Sonam Ki Rola Benjir Sange Drupasho Chidam Soki Choknam Nam Jamchu Bardu Dakni Kapsuchi Daki Jinyen Gipe Sonam Ki Rola Benjir Sange Drupasho Chidam Zoki Choknam Nam Jamchu Bardu Dakni Kapsuchi Daki Jinyen Gipe Sonam Ki Rola Benjir Sange Drupasho. So we're going to do a short meditation. If you could take a really comfortable position, that means the back part of your backside is slightly higher than the front part of your backside. Your knees, if you can get them to the ground, that's nice. If not, you can prop them up. The essence is that your back is straight, your face and your muscles relaxed, your shoulders relaxed. If you don't have a meditation practice, this is a perfect place to practice and begin. We only do them short at the beginning of class. And so you can try out things here because it's a short session to improve. So as you sit there, just make sure you really settle into your seat. You're about to withdraw your senses inward and leave the distraction of the body. And just become aware of the edges of your skin. The structure of your body, your skin and bones and muscles, the blood and guts and stuff inside of it. And now bring your mind to the breath as it enters and exits your nostril. Really push that mind against the breath as it exits and enters your nostril. So your entire focus is on the sensation of the breath entering and exiting the very tip of your nose. See if you can feel the hairs, the very tiny hairs on the edge of your nose. Now begin to observe as every inhale begins to transform the inside of your body into a translucent thing. So your lungs become translucent, your stomach, your intestines, every part of you inside, your bones, the liquids, everything begins to turn translucent and disappear entirely with each breath until you are left with an infinite blue sky inside the edges of your skin. Now I'd like you to follow my instructions very specifically. Picture who you are right now, atop a mountain, very isolated. It's pitch black. You're still aware of your being just like you are right now. And you're aware of your breath. There's nothing you can see, even if you did open your eyes, because it's pitch black. And then at your heart, you get this feeling that you are not alone. There's something far away in the distance, a being, and you feel instant love. You feel a pull towards that being, a recognition of something that was always there, but you can't see them. And gradually in the distance you notice two tiny dots, two tiny eyes. That's all you see, almost luminescent. They are coming towards you, and all you could see is just the eyes, half shut, smiling at you. That's all you can see in front of you. They are close to you, but all you could see is their eyes. And those eyes are just love and wisdom and everything you ever needed to reach a state of perfect enlightenment, to reach a state where you understand how to be free of suffering. In those eyes you see infinity. In those eyes you see every answer. And as your heart begins to open up, a light begins to shine from inside of them until they appear in front of you, and you realize that it's the future you looking at your current self. That enlightened being made of light and perfect, with those beautiful eyes, is you. And you look back in time at the you that is now, and you see every step that needs to be taken to reach that state. So now you ask them to please teach you, and in doing so you make them an offering. You offer the best thing you can imagine, the most beautiful thing you can think of or experience. You think of the highest quality, the thing that is closest to you now, that you can achieve in the next few weeks and months, and you supplicate for them to teach you that, to highlight it for you, to let it ripen in your mind now. They know exactly what that thing is. And so you know you need to clean your conscience from any obstruction to those realizations. So you think back at the last few days of your life now, and you think, what is it that it's in my mind stream that prevents me from stepping forward into the light? You think of a specific moment where you hurt someone or yourself, or you hurt the chance of you getting happy. You got jealous or angry, frustrated, caused some negativity in your world, and you look back at that very moment and pinpoint the second where you shifted into that negativity, and in your heart you feel an intelligent regret, a genuine sense inside of you that understands that thing will cause you suffering. So you wish it gone, you wish that you could have stopped it. You promise to yourself that you could stop it in the future and that you will. And you feel clean for having made that promise. And that being in front of you with those beautiful eyes can see the results of that wish. You're clean. And so then with joy you think back in the last few days at the most beautiful thing you've done, the wisest thing that occurred to you that you did to create a happy world. And you go back to that moment and you pinpoint the second where your heart opened up and you did a goodness that surprised yourself. And you just feel happy for having done a goodness. And you see that happiness reflected in that beautiful being in front of you, your future self. And then you know that every other person in this room is remembering a beautiful thing they've done. It will get them closer to happiness. So you are happy about that. Almost an unbearable goodness that so many people dare to make this world a better place. And so you look at those eyes, you remember that is the future you, and you ask them sincerely to please connect with your mind stream at every instant and teach you. That you don't leave a second wasted, that everything, every happiness and every hurt and everything in between be a lesson, be a wisdom teaching for you to be free of suffering. And they agree, they are happy that you asked. And so you ask them to stay with you until you meet them in time. For a few minutes, just stare at each other, observing every detail of their skin, their glow, search their mind, their high qualities, and see the potential in you for all those things that you are currently seeing. Why do you see them? Very slowly, very gently, that being in front of you begins to turn and face the same direction you are, but this time they are entering you, they are sitting in the same place you're sitting, you are becoming one, your hearts meet, future and present, and feel the wisdom in your very being right now, the potential for it and the actual wisdom that you possess. And together think of one person that you wish to direct all that love and wisdom to. Imagine that person wherever they are now. And without them being aware that it's you, just shower them, flood them with every realization and every essence of love in your heart, so that they are overwhelmed with beautiful, beautiful realizations. Now gradually withdraw that, bring it to a little tiny spot at the core of your heart, and try and keep that state of mind throughout the class. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. That was really nice and quiet, thank you, that was beautiful. Nirvana, let's talk more about Nirvana. Last, Cliff, I'm going to reference you today, is that okay? I want to address your frustration from last class. I'm only going to review one question from each class, so Cliff can get onto this
Okay, you gotta do the whole review.
No, whole review.
Please.
So in class 1 we talked about the perfection of wisdom, which is called the... I want you to learn something. The mother. Why mother?
She gives birth to your enlightenment.
Sorry?
She gives birth to your enlightenment.
Great, she gives birth to the Buddhist, to your enlightenment. That's awesome. Okay, the perfection of wisdom. And you know, I was thinking today, ACI 2 can be a little dry, okay, because there's lots of stuff. And so can a bunch of other ACI courses. But there's beautiful stuff in there if you have the proactive nature to figure out how it connects to you. I'll try and share it. How can you use it today? But you got to figure out for you. I don't know each of your circumstances, what's going on in your lives. So for some people, you'd like the cerebral stuff. For some people, you'd like the experiential stuff. This stuff is precious. It's precious stuff. And so for every single thing that I say that I only know a tiny bit about, that tiny bit that you get to hear and that you've heard before, hopefully, is massive in comparison to what most people walking the planet know. And it can be really useful to transform your entire existence if you put it into some kind of practice. So I want to talk about practice today. So we're talking about Nirvana, we're talking about refuge. Why the hell talk about Nirvana? You've got to ask your motivation. Why? What's interesting about it for you? Why are you even bothering? How will it help you really? And then what's this idea of refuge? Refuge from what? You know, the stuff that hurts us all the time, it's refuge from that. And some refuges work for a short time, and these ideas, this path, this thing works to remove those hurts permanently. Nirvana, Buddhahood, total enlightenment. They're just words until you put meaning into them. And if you don't inform yourself They're just fuzzy things. So the detail is useful for informing, but then you got to make the connection. You know, we're all at very different stages of evolution. And according to some traditions, I'm the least evolved. That's why I get to do this job. And you're all sitting there asking all the clever questions that made me go, oh, I've got to figure that out. I've got to figure that out, and then I've got to reverberate it back to you. So I appreciate, and I really genuinely thank you for the opportunity to teach. Class 2, we talked about the definition of taking refuge. Anyone give me just a layman's definition of taking refuge? What does it mean, this idea of refuge? Yell it out.
Seeking protection.
Seeking protection, good. So you need two things.
Fear of something.
Mm-hmm.
And you have a belief in something. It's kind of confusing. I guess on one level it's something external to yourself that provides you that.
Yeah.
But ultimately it's that to recognize that in yourself.
Great, so you've already gone through the layers of definition, and that's why we have like all these schools of Buddhist thought. The Buddha taught, 3-4 different systems, depending on, who you're listening to, because we have different understandings of that. So in one level, you see the refuge out there, mummy can help me when my sister looks at me badly, something outside of you, ultimately, in the highest view, that's your mind, yeah? So, good. Then we talked about the definition of bodhicitta, is that right? The greater ways wish for enlightenment. Do you remember that was that really long definition? It had 2 parts. Yeah? Who doesn't remember the definition? I've got it in my hand and I don't remember it, so be honest. Yeah? Good. That's something worth reading, because every line will help you understand all the stuff that went before and all the stuff that's coming. And then we classified, so give me a short definition of bodhicitta. Sorry. You don't have to remember the old one.
The wish to reach total enlightenment for the sake of all beings.
Good. So what would that feel like? What would that be like when you're sitting on a train, when you're on the toilet, when you're going to bed, when you're shoving your face with food, when you're upset that somebody hurt you? What does that look like,
Much more comfortable.
Hmm?
Much more comfortable.
Much more comfortable than what?
than it is now.
Okay, that's nice. Thank you. And so we classified, and the Tibetans, because they had 1,000 years with, no trains, they couldn't get out or planes, so they set and defined and redefined and labelled and sub-labelled these things, and they gave us really good thinking, deep thinking and realizations on some of the divisions of bodhicitta. So if you're at this level of evolution, if you're on this path, remember the 5 paths? No? Cool.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much. Should I ask you what they are? No.
Sure.
No, let's move. I want to get some classwork done. So someone help me just briefly break down the 4 divisions of bodhicitta. I mean, that's just one of the ways to divide it. Or the wish. The first one is, and it belongs to the first 2 of the 5 paths, right? So what's that mean? Layperson, it's got to be for you. So if you were at that level, what would that be for you? If you had the belief, a division, or that type of bodhicitta?
That you believe it exists because you've seen it in others, and the person who's sharing it with you is someone, your teacher is someone who's kind of convinced you that it's possible. So you're saying, well,
You believe them?
let me give it a go.
Yeah, so but that's in relation to the understanding of ultimate reality, yeah? Mm-hmm. You actually believe them, that's the way that things are functioning, or the way they teach you, yeah? And in that respect, the love and the work you do for other people, yeah? Okay, cool. What's the next one? What? And does anybody remember the Tibetan word for that? Chlatsam, yeah, good. That sounds more Yiddish. Chlatsam. Sorry. So, and the next one? ripened, and the last one. Last one.
Eliminates obstructions.
Thank you very much. You're very learned today. You're very learned today. It's nice. Yeah. Not to say you weren't before. I'll take that. It's hard to say things without people having several interpretations of them. I wonder why that happens. Sorry? After ripening? Okay, someone help? Good, thank you. And then we defined nirvana, not the band. So what was the definition for nirvana?
Cessation of suffering, the understanding, or am I making this up?
You are making it up, but that's close.
Okay.
Is it a temporary cessation?
No, I mean like
It's a bit permanent, right?
yeah,
Okay.
the permanent cessation of all suffering.
You eliminate what? Mental afflictions, yeah. Obstacles, yeah. In their entirety, good, because due to individual analysis. Blah 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 words, right? Good, thank you. Let's see what the words mean. What's individual analysis mean? It's code for blah blah blah.
No.
You gotta know. It's the process that happens after you get the four aerial truths. No? Individual analysis? It refers to the realization of the four aerial truths immediately after seeing emptiness threat. So it's on coming down from that. It's still in the path of sin. Yeah. So if that's what you meant, yes. Congratulations.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Cool. And then at the end of the class, we started talking about the four types of nirvana, right? And we talked about one type of nirvana. We don't have a board. Can we use that board?
Happy board.
Yeah, but I don't want to cover everything. So, can we move that board over here? And over there. And while we're doing that, I'll just do an intermission. Does anybody have the Tibetan class notes? Can you write them? Yeah? Can you write them? I just want the four types of nirvana and then the intermission. Here we go, intermission. And then the things you need to get out of nirvana. So show me the notes. No. So, yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then, yeah, 1, 2, 3, thank you, that's it. Just the Tibetan, yeah. And so let's talk about the first one, which we'll get in a second. Say, Rangshi, Nyangde. So you remember Nyangde as nirvana, cool, and Rangshi? What's this type of nirvana? I didn't know there were 4 nirvanas, by the way, when we first started all this. I'm like, really? I thought everyone just gets to nirvana. What the hell is nirvana then? If there's 4 types.
Or maybe you don't want to.
So the natural nirvana, that's what that one is not a nirvana at all. Right? Why is it a nirvana, and why do they call it nirvana, and what does it mean to? And if you read the reading, I think it's reading 3, which is class 5 and 6. Sorry, it's confusing. If you read the reading, you saw some synonyms for natural nirvana, hopefully. So what's natural nirvana refer to? Emptiness, right. So why would it be called natural nirvana?
Because you still have mental afflictions.
It's natural nirvana because you can't produce mental affliction inside of just the emptiness or whatever.
Exactly. So inside the experience of emptiness, you can't have a mental affliction necessarily because of it. It is naturally excluding mental afflictions. It doesn't. You can't have. You cannot have a mental affliction. It's actually the antidote to mental affliction.
It's just permanent by definition, that you permanently at that state. Or
This is not referring to a state. This is referring to the fact that things are empty, that they don't have a nature of their own. And we'll get to it in the second half of the class. We'll talk a little bit more about emptiness, and then the next two classes deal on emptiness in detail. So this is saying the idea that the emptiness of things. So you are not, so these flowers can't be emptiness, but they have emptiness. Yeah? So that thing that they have is this natural nirvana.
But it's not specifically referring to when you're in the experience of emptiness, the direct experience of emptiness.
It's just a synonym. It's a synonym.
So
It's just emptiness. It's like saying emptiness.
It has nothing to do with that.
No.
Okay. So
But the reason it's up here listed is because in many of the scriptures, if you study this text, and this, I'm just taking this from Dr. Michael, you will see this type, these words, Rang Shi Nyangde, you'll see these words refer to nirvana, nirvana, nirvana. And then if you don't know that it's only referring to emptiness, that it's not in fact a nirvana, yeah, then you'll be confused. You think, oh, it's a path, it's something I have to do.
I have a question. So you're saying that it's just emptiness, it's not the direct perception of emptiness?
Correct.
Awesome, thank you.
You're welcome. So what are some of the synonyms you saw in there? Dharmakaya, emptiness body, mother, hopefully you saw some of them, ultimate truth, etc., etc. So it's just referring to emptiness. It's not a nirvana, okay? It's just emptiness. And the reason they list it here is because by definition there can not be any afflictions in this thing. It is the antidote to all afflictions. So it's in that sense it's a kind of nirvana, which means it's not a nirvana at all. Yeah. Blah 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 blah. What else do I need to tell you about that? Ultimate truth. So they call it in name only, if you want to know. So they call it nirvana in name only. And we okay, let's leave it at that. So the next one, the next nirvana, so let's talk about the next two nirvanas together. The one called Hrak, Che, Nyangde. And do you remember the definition of nirvana? Or one of the, where the word nirvana came from? The longer, Nyangde le dupa? Do you remember that? What does that mean? Do you remember? Like, what's nirvana referring to?
Blown out. Blown out.
Beyond, yeah, blown out or beyond grief. Yeah, great, good. So we're shortening it, or the Tibetans are shortening it, but it's really is Yande le Dupa. Okay, so gone beyond grief. Cool. So whenever you see Yande, think of that. So you get a deeper understanding of nirvana and the implications and the rest. So Hlak means something left over. Che means having or possessing, and Yamde, nirvana. So this is a nirvana with something left over, right? So if you've got leftovers in your fridge, it's Hlak, okay? But it's not nirvana, unless, yeah, okay. So what would that look like? What would that be? If you reached a state of nirvana with something left over, what would that be referring to? Sorry, I can't hear you. No, it doesn't mean that. No. You're still here is a good answer.
You still have a body.
You still have a body. Yeah, great. So you've got the blood and guts and the stuff that make you a being, yeah, a human being left over. So you might reach that state, but you still got something left over. Let's see. What's left over? Well, actually, the definition, I think, in the Abhidharma Kosha, and I couldn't confirm that, was exactly the definition of nirvana, which was
by individual and
something, yeah, individual plus. So that the description about this was that plus where one has the suffering heaps. So then we have to talk about what are the suffering heaps, and we'll talk about the suffering heaps, as well as karmic seeds. Sorry. So what are the 5 heaps? Does everybody know the 5 heaps? 5 heaps of a person, they call them. Yeah. Do we have room to have them? No? Don't worry, it's okay. So what's the first heap? Actually, why do they call them heaps?
How do you spell heap?
H-E-A-P-S, I think. I'm ethnic. Yeah. I was born when I was very young. Okay, I've got to tell you this, right? When I learned about the 5 heaps, it's a strange way for Westerners to divide a person. Yeah? So it's a new way for me. For me, it was a new way to think about a being or a person, these 5 heaps. But nothing is excluded out of all the iterations of a being. That is, nothing is excluded when you describe these 5 heaps. Okay. I've got to tell you this though. When I learned about this, I'd just come from Australia, and there was this really bad commercial of some gooey, revolting food that you made in a big pot and you added from a packet, and then you added water and stuff, and it just looked like vomit. I mean, it was just revolting, and you'd scoop it up and you'd drop it in there. It's like this thick, globulous stuff. And the commercial was, for mothers that were working really hard to feed their kids, good, nutritious food quickly. So you'd make this instant, and then you'd just dump it on their plate, and the commercial was give them heaps, give them heaps, give them heaps, and so I can't get that story out of my mind every time I learn about the 5 heaps, because I see that commercial and this poor mother with 20,000 children, with these horrible globules of stuff, and you had corn, and it was just revolting, right? But it had the 5 heaps. So every time I read about the 5 heaps, I think, give them heaps, give them heaps, give them heaps. So the 5 heaps, the first heap, the reason they're called heaps is because they are made up of many things. So each of these 5 things that make up a person are in themselves made up of many other subsets. And the first of the 5 heaps is the physical heap, the body, form. In relation to you, that is your skin, your blood, your gut, your bones, your nerve endings, everything that's stuff. Matter. The next heap is that of feelings. Feeling. And the interesting thing about this heap, and I'll talk about it in just a second, is that where is your feeling? Where do you feel? Don't forget, if the first heap was a physical heap and it included up to your nerve endings, right? I said that on purpose. Where's your feeling? Can you point to where your feelings are? Somewhere in there, right? Where are your feelings? It's a different way of dividing who you are, okay?
So it's emotions, not touch feeling.
It's a very specific feeling that's referred to. It's not emotion, it's not sensitivity. It refers to positive or pleasant feelings, neutral feelings, and unpleasant feelings and negative feelings. It's 3 types, and it's a tone. It's not emotional. It's a tone that accompanies every perception. And just like say one other thing.
No, perfect. Yeah.
Whether
You're saving me from the next two.
Whether you call them heaps or bags or piles or baskets, it could be interpreted many different ways. It's just 5 categories. So this is critical. Just say, what was that? critically important. It's so important teaching, because as we get into emptiness and we're going to negate the self, you have to know what the self is, which is, I know what's coming up. And I don't know about you, but I was looking for myself from like the time I was 12 years. I was trying to find myself, and I never could find myself. I was looking here and looking there, and this guru and that guru, and you never could find yourself. And what Buddha did is said, look, I'll tell you what it is. It's these 5 categories, and I have tried, and you can try, and you can take this apart. And when you analyze who you are to the finest, littlest detail, it will fit into these 5 categories, and it's an interesting process to do. And when you see what the categories are, then you can see how they exist.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Sorry.
No, thank you.
I think feelings is emotions, because then there's discrimination, and that's different from feelings. That's another heap.
One way to divide, so there are many schools and there are many divisions. One way to divide feelings from the 5 heaps is exactly what Cliff said, and that's perfect. Yeah, this positive, negative, and neutral. Okay, think of it this way: it's like the live wire that's not covered at all. That's constantly. So your mind has any perception, and it always, even when you're in a coma, it is always accompanied by feeling. Yeah? Yes, it's correct. You have discrimination as something else. In fact, there are 40. The interesting thing about this heap is that you could divide the 5 heaps really into 2 parts. Yeah? The body and the mind.
Yeah.
But here they've chosen to grab these bags and grab these heaps into 5. This one is a mental thing. It's a mental function. Okay, feeling. Let me go through them, and then we can discuss why they're broken up. The next one is correctly discrimination. This idea that is right and that is wrong. I discriminate between boy and girl, good and bad, black and white, and we have this capacity. It's again a mental function, a function of your mind. Yeah, not your brain, your mind, your consciousness can do this. Yeah. So there's 2 mental functions: feeling, discrimination. Okay? Now we're up to the 4th heap, which is other stuff. Compositional factors, they call them, or something else. And I think, let's see if I've got the definition from the Master Vasubandhu.
Sorry, what's it called?
Other stuff, other factors, I'm going to call it. Because compositional factors means blood. Yeah? Compositional factors. It means it's other factors, really. Because, and the definition, and you can then add whatever word you want to, is that heap or that collection of stuff, which is you, which obviously is not physical, because we've excluded all the physical stuff. It's not the specific mental function of feeling which accompanies you. Even you will also have a neutral feeling. Even if you're in a coma, you will still have a feeling. Okay. It's not discrimination, right and wrong, good and bad, separate, together, etc. But it's that heap which includes every part of you that is not the other 4 heaps. That's it. That's the beautiful description from Vasubandhu in the Abhidharmakosha about. It's not cheating. Look, I told you before, there's 2 types of people in the world: those that have seen emptiness directly and those that haven't. Or there's 2 types of people in the world: those that divide the world into 2 types of people and those that don't. Right? So, I mean, you see how one excludes the other. So that's what they're doing. It's good. And then anything else that you have, it's there. Okay?
So is it space? I mean,
Is it?
It's everything else that is not physical body. So can you tell where your physical body is, or your matter, or your atoms, or your stuff? Okay? Can you identify within you these 2 specific mental functions, which are feeling and discrimination? Can you sense them when you are being you? Yeah. The last one, the 5th one, we still didn't cover, is
Awareness.
Consciousness.
Some kind of awareness.
Oh, good. You're all on the mind space, which is main mind. Okay, and there are six types of consciousness within that mind, which are
Smell, taste.
yeah, those consciousnesses. Yeah,
Is it fifth one is mind?
Right.
yeah, mind, main mind. Okay. No, because in the fourth, it could be. I mean, you could divide it into two. You could say physical and compositional factors, right? So now we're asking, why are we doing this specific division? Why didn't we do the division of mind and body and other stuff?
Good question.
Yeah,
That's a good question.
it's a great question. Why did we pick out fear? So there's a list in Buddhism that say there are 46 mental factors, right? 46 mental factors.
Which
Which-
46, 47, 48.
So, out of all the different mental factors that there are, they've grabbed these two and placed them as part of the 5 parts of a person. Why would they do that?
Sorry, which two?
Feeling and discrimination. They're mental factors. Why don't they fit them into mind with all the other 44?
Well, because they seem to me that they're different parts of the mind. Discrimination and feeling. Discrimination is more a numerical, quantitative part of the mind, and the feeling is more of an emotional, go about life part of the mind.
Yeah.
And the main mind will dominate soul. Now, the other factors is the only one that I'm like, it's so...
Yeah, I was the same. It's like, I don't know what's included in that. I really actually don't know off the top of my head what's included in the other.
I'm sorry, an animal mind that, like, you know, we're going to discriminate between what will kill us and what won't kill us, and
Perfect,
and
yeah.
you can override that, like to save somebody's life or to do something else.
Are you talking about the discrimination of an animal?
Yes. No, I'm talking about the discrimination of us. Like why it would be separate from.
Oh, I see.
It's separate.
I see.
Because discrimination is not always something that you view and you analyze with an analytical mind. Some of it is just hardwired instincts that we wouldn't naturally walk into something that's just screaming on.
Okay. My understanding of why they've separated them is because they actually cause suffering. They cause samsara. These are the two main. They are the two big causes of samsara. You're sitting there. These are the core of the wheel of life. This discrimination between liking and disliking. With ignorance, not understanding the nature of things, we are forever, against our will, forced to divide everything between good and bad. I like you, I don't like you. So then I behave stupidly towards you because I have this bizarre discrimination, and then added upon that this feeling of like and dislike and the rest. So because these are the two main causes, out of all the 40-something other mental factors, these are the two things that really cause your suffering. So out of all the heaps, you can understand the physical one, fair enough. You can understand there's a whole bunch of stuff in the mind that you can divide infinitesimally, right? But these two in particular are poison. If used, they create samsara. Yeah.
It was discrimination. What's the other one?
Feeling.
Feeling.
Yeah. I've got Chardonnay today, and I think this is just vodka. Would you like some?
Can I mention something about the 12, what you're talking about on the 12 links, just to show where they fit in?
Let's do it, because we did the Wheel of Life painting. We're going to cover much more of this later on. Don't forget, this is ACI 2. We do 5 years of this. I want to gently and properly introduce these ideas, but I also want you to go in and research and go and find out. I don't know what's sticking in you. And for you, you've got lots of study and lots of depth, and for you, you've got, your own understanding, etc. You need to go and do this for yourselves to understand what it is. So I'm going to touch on stuff here very lightly now, and then we go into depth into all these things over the next 4 years. So there's content online, there's content in the book. I'd rather cover what I know I should cover because my teachers told me to cover, and then you, of your own accord, this is the second part of learning that I can't do for anyone, that you need to do of your own accord. I'm walking you through a process that certainly teaches you cerebral stuff, but alongside, if you're paying attention, something else is happening in the classroom for some of you, and that something else, if you keep tight to that thing that is happening, you will come along a path that will get you some realizations if you're doing the work. And that work includes learning of your own accord, integrating of your own accord, and paying attention to the other stuff that's happening. So there's a reason why we cover it slow to start with, and then deeper, and we'll cover the same stuff in different depths at different times. So keep that close, but obviously continue to do that deep research and deep meaning for you, because it's important. So why did we end up talking about heaps? Because we're talking about nirvana, and we're talking about which type of nirvana? Something left over, right? And what was that definition that I gave you about something left over?
All the other stuff was
But where one has the suffering heaps, yeah, which are the result of your, so these suffering heaps, these 5 heaps, are the result of your karma and seeds. Yeah? Sorry? What was it? So what this means is if you reach a level in the path, obviously where you have seen emptiness directly, descended from that experience, gone through the bodhisattva bhumis, if you're doing that track, you're somewhere in the path of habituation, and then you flip over to the, now you've done the path of seeing, which was seeing emptiness directly. Yeah. Path of normal learning. Yeah. And you have something left over. You have these 5 heaps. What does that feel like? What is that like? You've got to understand that you've got these seeds, this past karma, your past actions, in an impulse projecting forward this body and these heaps. That's where they come from. Yeah? So then the next nirvana that we talk about is, say, Platme Nyamde. Is that the right one? Because I can't quite see. 2, 3. And Plat means, we did it before? No.
What? What is it?
Why do you say something? Why?
Because that's what we said from the one before.
Cool. Left over, actually. It's leftovers. Yeah, it's given heaps. And me? What's me, ma at the end of all the Tibetan words? It's a negative, right? So it means nothing. Nothing left over. Yeah, not something left over.
So
Yeah.
hot means what?
Left over. Plug. So this is nirvana with nothing left over. What would that be like? What's that? No more heaps?
No impure things.
Thank you. No more impure heaps. Right? Are you sure?
No more hips or heaps?
No more hips.
Yeah. No more hips.
Do you have a body and a mind left over?
Yes.
I asked you, do you have a body and a mind left
Body
over?
and mind.
Oh, alright. Oh, no body.
Yes.
Well, there's a yes because then you have a form, but you have a dharma. Is it like a zero body?
You're free from seeds.
Hmm?
You're
Free from seeds.
Well,
See, it's funny because the definition is that, well, in many in many of the schools, it's like you don't have a body and you don't have a mind. And so there's a debate between the schools about this. One of the answers to the debate is, well, what about our hearts? Do they not exist? How do they exist?
In their stream.
So are they in nirvana? So they're walking around?
No.
Yeah, because they can.
Okay.
Their mental stream is. Their mental stream has nirvana. Either is imbued with nirvana or imbued with no mental afflictions.
So there's a vow about not killing our hearts, so they must have like,
Right, exactly. Thank you.
That's nice. But how would that even make sense? And then if they have like a emanation body, like if they got.
So do our hearts have emanation bodies?
Not yet, but. Okay, so they have to, but they have.
Do you remember we talked about what's
born without impureness? Like it doesn't have to be forced upon them.
They don't have the helplessness of being of returning to samsara without their free will. Like without.
Say that
They
again.
burn the karma and the seeds to continually enter nirvana helplessly, like through ignorance, attachment, possession, which means they cut the roots of grasping.
So the definition is that they don't have a body and a mind, right? How can that be?
That's before they actually die. Because you can't. You have to have a physical mind in order to reach that state. Because you have to think.
I actually don't know the real answer for this.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I'm fishing.
But I thought, but really and truly, isn't it like they don't have impure heaps, so therefore they still have pure heaps, which means that they aren't forced to take their body, but they can.
Let's go to the fourth. Let's go to the fourth nirvana and see if that gives us a hint. Okay. So what's the fourth nirvana? Oh, by the way, before we go there, what school are we in? The book that we are studying. Majjhimika what? Sva. So it's these texts come from.
It's a trigger, but isn't that Prasamika? Isn't it both the same? I don't really know.
No. I think there's 8 points that define these two schools. One is around perception. What's a perception? What's a pramana? I think there's 8 differentiating points between them. So this is not the high school, it's the one just below that. Remember we did that chart? No, you don't remember?
So I thought it was
Svatantrika, Majjhimika Svatantrika is the school that this stuff is being learned from. Just as an aside, so you think about the Majjhimika Prasangika, the school that we actually belong to, that these ideas come through, they flipped both Nirvana 2 and Nirvana 3. So they think that the way it happens is that first you have nothing left over, and they interpret that as being in a state of seeing emptiness directly. There's nothing, there's no heaps, there's no, and then forced upon you, when you come down from the experience of emptiness and reality, nominal reality, reasserts itself, then you've got heaps left over. So the school we're learning it from, the one that says you don't have a body or a mind, I don't know how they interpret that, really. All I know is how the Prasangikists interpret that, which is being in the experience of emptiness.
So what is pure heaps then? You're seeing emptiness directly and you don't have heaps anymore because...
No, cool. So you're jumping to the end of the class, which is cool, which means we can go. What's a pure heap? You think about it. Does a Buddha exist? What heaps do they have? Do they have impure heaps?
So is that what they choose then? Choose to have a body?
It's so funny, this idea of choice. We keep seeing it when we go to when I go to centers like this or just talk to people, and being in the Western mindset, I can choose my next life. After years of study and some understanding of your experience of the world, do you think you have a choice about how you're feeling this very second? Do you think that you have a choice about how you perceive a thing?
Well, you have a choice on how you deal with that person.
Excellent. I agree with you, right? I agree with you. So I just did something silly, right? And I threw something. Did you have a choice about the way you interpreted that in your head? Some of you thought, oh, Hector's so clever. I know many of you thought that. and he's so funny. He's about to do something very funny. No, I don't know how each one of you perceived that thing or whatever event occurs in your existence. Do you have a choice about that?
No.
In the
You have a
moment,
choice in the
yeah.
action.
You have a choice in the response, right? Somewhere between an event occurring, your response rising, your experience of it rising up, you becoming aware of that thing that occurred. I'm angry, I'm happy, I'm crying, whatever. Then you seem to have some choice about how you respond to that.
Isn't that limited to your capacity though?
What do you mean?
Isn't that limited to your capacity as someone who's grown to the point that they're at to make that choice? Whether or not you can make a choice outside of that.
Where it comes from, it's a good question, right? So where did that capacity? So as a kid, I couldn't help but yell at my dad. Yeah. As an adult, I couldn't help but yell at my dad. I just yelled at him in a different way. No, I'm kidding. At some point you change your behavior, right? Where does that come from? Where does that capacity?
From studying, doing that.
Getting rid of ignorance.
Getting rid of ignorance is a beautiful answer. From studying is a beautiful answer. Senor?
But isn't that a choice in itself?
Isn't it?
Yeah,
Good.
you choose to. I may not be able to have a choice over it right now, but if I study on or meditate on one specific thing, a year from now, I've chosen a year back.
That's a nice way of But I'm saying at the moment in this situation.
No.
Yeah, you have an experience. So, getting back to the question, life is forced upon you, and then you respond. But that forcing had a cause. That stuff appearing in front of you was caused by something. You have two choices in life. You either believe things are random, everything's random, or everything is caused. Yeah, or you could say everything is caused except the things that are random. Which makes no sense. Yeah.
This is the biggest frustration for me in all this study, and I keep tabling it, but it's ready to come up right now. So if everything is caused, the seeds are constantly flowering.
Yeah.
Then, and you just said things are forced upon you, and then you have a choice. So then at some point the seed doesn't flower, and that ceases, and you get to choose. How does that work?
Yeah. So I'm going to give you this is not the course for it, but I'm going to give you an answer that helped me a little bit, okay? And you've got to cook it, yeah? What if the perception of choice was also forced upon you? What if the perception of choice was forced upon you by actions, movements of mind? That helped me a lot in that frustrating question, because when we get using that discrimination, when we get to this black and white things like this or that or that, and we get to the depths and trying to understand karma, which is Shinto Kokyo. Remember, there's three things Kokyo are hidden. Shinto Kokyo means very deeply hidden. And seeing emptiness directly, which do you think is? Kokyo or Shinto Kokyo? No, Kokyo. It's hidden. And karma is Shinto Kokyo. And when I heard that, I'm like, no wonder it's like you can grasp a concept of emptiness. You can grasp a concept that things don't have a nature of their own, and maybe seltzer or mineral water with bubbles, it really is from its own side the most beautiful, tasty thing you could ever want. Right? Some people hate it, it's revolting for them. Yeah. So you can grasp emptiness to lots of degrees. But karma, when you get to this really horrible, what about choice? Have I got choice? And you think you've got choice, and then I dare you to check your response as things come. And sure, you can habituate yourself to a point to deal with certain things, and that's through education, through study, through practice, through just, you know, your worldview really. You know, something will pass, and so you put up with it. There's a difference between doing that as a being, as a human being, doing that, and getting some practice at doing that, learning these tricks, if you like, to manipulate your mind as existence appears to you, it's forced upon you, and you learn some tricks where you become a hardened being that says, I can deal with that just by not responding, and okay? Or if you really see through the cracks, if you really make a practice of it, you can get to a point where that is permanently extinguished. That meaning, sorry, I'll reverse back. That practice of dealing with things because you've learned them nominally. So I know not to yell back at my dad because he'll yell back. And I can do that to a point. But there is a point, there can be a point, where if not my dad, somebody else can break that for me. Yeah? And so it's like taking shelter, taking refuge in this idea that worldly learning or figuring out little tricks of behavior and psychology can get me by and I can be at peace. But by implication, this is saying bull. This is saying that can only last until you maintain that awareness, until if you can maintain that awareness that there is something that can be experienced directly, the ultimate nature of things, how things truly exist. That once you see that, then you will never be broken by those tricks are not needed anymore, because you actually see how the true source of those things, and all the other dealings with the troublesome people and the rest are not dealing with the ultimate and true source of your suffering.
This doesn't digress.
Let's hope.
Let's hope. I have trouble then with habituation. Because once you've seen the ultimate source, and then you come out, and the world then begins to restart itself, if there is cessation, permanent cessation, why do you have to habituate? Like
Perfect, no, perfect. Because you've still got a storehouse of shitty karmas following you.
Oh, gotcha.
You've got like a storehouse of impulses really pushing you to continue to experience, but the difference is you know it's a lie. You know it's not the way you thought it was.
But habituation is needed for enlightenment. If you're doing it for different reasons than habituation, or just getting away with it and not having the negative reaction come back to you, then can it not lead to enlightenment?
Absolutely, it's actually a prerequisite. Beautiful. It's a prerequisite, but the path of habituation is a very specific term about these 5 paths, and it means after you've had an experience, you have this path of habituation.
I understand that, but I'm saying in that respect where you make a choice regarding and you make that something that you do on a daily basis, that it might not break down in the end.
Don't know what
something will not break down that habit of you dealing with a certain thing in a certain manner.
If I guess one can say that would be true if you were viewing the world correctly. But if you're not viewing the world correctly, i.e. you didn't see emptiness directly, then something would break that habituation.
Is that not discrimination? As we were talking about earlier.
How is it discrimination?
Because saying that you're seeing the world in the right way or not, whether there is a good or bad, or
it's not good or bad.
Yeah. It's a different explanation, but we'll get to it. We covered it in a whole bunch of other classes. It's code for. I'll give you the simplest thing I can give you is, the Matrix alludes to there's a code, or there's a different way, a real way of experiencing the world, which nobody's aware of on planet Earth, right? So we're talking about that code versus trying to fix the world that Nero's in, or whatever his name is. What was his name? Nero, that one. Yeah. It's like working in that pretend world, trying to fix the world. But you're never going to, because you're in the pretend world. The only way you're going to really fix it is by getting to the code. Seeing emptiness directly, the path of seeing is referring to that. The path of habituation is like figuring out how to navigate that world that's new to you, but you can, because you've found the real source. You're never going to get happy by working in the pretend world. You've got to work in the ultimate world. That's what they're saying. last one, and then we'll take a quick break.
Just quickly for clarification, so wisdom does not have the power to cut the seeds in the plant. It can't stop them.
What was the
Because
question?
that's
Sorry.
She said wisdom does not have the power to cut the seeds. Yeah? Wisdom cuts the root of ignorance. So in the center of the wheel of life, you have that pig, and that is a symbol of ignorance. Ignorance is not just stupidity. Ignorance means what? No? What's ignorance mean?
You don't even know about it.
Oh, well, I think it's wrong to you.
Yeah, it's wrong. You think things are one way, but they're the other. Right? Ignorance means not understanding the nature of reality. Ignorance means you don't know things are empty of self-existence. We'll cover that at length. But the pig signifies a mind that has that rooted, that thing has been in your mind from time without beginning, this not understanding the matrix, this not understanding, you think that you're living on planet Earth. You're not living on planet Earth. There's some other code forcing you to have these experiences. That other code, when you get to see it for the first time, that cuts the root of ignorance, because you can never see the world again. Once he took the blue pill, was it the blue pill or the red pill? Once he took one of the colored pills, the good one, he could never see the world. He knew he was in a lie. Yeah, we are in the lie. We are in the lie day to day, and we don't know it. But having the direct experience of him, and so as we're doing that, we're behaving because of the pig in two ways, discriminating ways. I like that, I don't like that. I want that, I don't want that. Ignorant liking, ignorant disliking. That is the chicken that comes out of the pig's mouth. It's the liking, pecking, want more, never satisfied. Every millisecond we're like, I like that, I like her butt, I don't like her butt, nice clothes, terrible clothes, the train's late, blah, 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 blah. Yeah? And then the snake, which sheds its skin, also born from the ignorant pig's mouth, is like, I don't like that. I don't know where those things came from. The train, my perception with you, etc. I really don't, I'm ignorant of the code that lies in front of why that experience is in front of me. That's the pig. I am that pig. We are in that pigness. And we are forced, because of not knowing what the code is, to think that if we're operating in that dream world, we're going to fix it. And in fact, you never fix it in that dream world. That's samsara. That's getting locked in samsara. So the shedding, the skin of the snake means I don't like that. And what happens when you like, dislike ignorantly, it's like it's already imbued with a horrible color and characteristic, and so every action that you do is colored with that crap. And that crap produces, that ignorant stuff produces your reality. It's the karma that is propelling your future. Not karma as in good luck, bad luck. It's actually these seeds popping in your mind, projected onto the code, forcing you to have a certain experience. The only problem is the time delay. You did the karma back then. I don't know why I'm currently having this shitty experience. I've been a good boy last week. Yeah, I'm being really nice to my boss today, and then he gets angry at me. I was shitty last month. You know? I haven't cheated anybody for ages, and all of a sudden, someone's cheating me. Where does that come from? It doesn't make sense. The dream world has no correlation. We think we figured it out. It has no correlation. And we, we're going to do courses on that in detail. Having said that, 2 minutes. Goodbye. Thank you very much. See you in 10. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Come and get your homework.
This is class 6, right?
Yes.